I'm Chris Giles, the Technical Director of Havilah Resources, and today I'd like to explain a few details about our recent downhole electromagnetic survey that we did at our Mutooroo deposit, which is located about 40 minutes drive out of Broken Hill. Mutooroo contains a JORC resource of almost 200,000 tonnes of copper in a massive sulphide lode. Now the downhole electromagnetic method, often called DHEM, uses a drill hole as a detection position for conductive sulphide mineralisation that may be within a few hundred metres of that drill hole, either not necessarily intersected by it, but sometimes off hole. And the method consists of using a transmitter at the surface which feeds a current into a loop, in our case 600 metres by 300 metres, which generates a EM field which penetrates the ground, and if that EM field hits a conductive zone, then there's a secondary EM signal generated, which is then picked up by the sensor, which is progressively being lowered down the hole by the winch. And this secondary EM field signal is transmitted up to the receiver, and that data is then analysed by very sophisticated software to tell us where these conductive zones are, if they exist, for example, how far off the drill hole or whether it's below the drill hole, and provides very valuable information from an existing deep drill hole. And here's how the data is collected in the field. Basically, there's our drill hole collar, cable with the sensor probe on the end of it, being lifted up and down by the winch. The data that probe picks up is received and stored and recorded, and is then analysed in specialised software by our geophysical consultant. Now it so happens that the Mutooroo massive sulphide ore is actually ideally suited to the electromagnetic method, and that's because the sulphide minerals, which are conductive, the iron sulphide, the copper sulphide, are connected. So it's like having a continuous long wire, really. And so any EM signal hitting this will be definitely disturbed and retransmitted. And that's what we're aiming to pick up. Now we know that Mutooroo responds well to EM because it was shown up very clearly by airborne EM surveys over it some years ago. So the drill holes we used for the downhole EM were those which had recently been drilled, sponsored by JXAM Advanced Metal Study Program. And unfortunately we couldn't use all the holes because some were blocked. The holes are not cased, but here's a couple of them that we use, some of the deeper holes. And we want to use the deepest holes we can because that will give us the maximum depth penetration. So what the software gives us are conductive plates. It tells us where the conductors are. And so what we picked up was a southern conductive plate, quite a large one, a northern plate, in fact two northern plates, another one behind there. Our geophysical consultant considered the very high conductivities shown by both these plates definitely indicated massive sulphide mineralisation of the type that we see at Mutooroo. So in other words, what we're seeing here, these conductive plates are showing us where the massive sulphide mineralisation could be at depth below our existing drill holes, which is great news for us. And on this long section here, this is generated along the Mutooroo ore body. Here's our measured sulphide resource indicated, and the inferred is at depth, not shown here. So it's really where we only did the survey in this northern part. We didn't do anything in the central or the southern part. We'll probably do that later. But certainly up this northern end where we did our downhole survey, we picked up these very nice conductive zones and indications that they could be sulphides. So a couple of cross sections, the southern cross section here through this plate, northern one through here, which I'll show you in the next couple of slides. Here's a southern cross section. This is an AI generated outline of the Mutooroo ore body, and here's our southern conductive plate. Extends about 200 metres below our deepest Havilah drill hole. These are Havilah drill holes. And it extends on down 200 metres. So we could reasonably expect that in this zone here we will pick up more sulphides. And it's definitely indicated by the fact that it's just continuing on from where we know the existing sulphides are, and even where the AI model suggests there could be more at depth. Of course, we have no idea of what the grade or the width will be until we actually drill it. Here's the northern conductive plate. In fact, there are two here. This is the main one, which, as you can see, again, is almost coincident with the AI-generated ore envelope outline for Mutooroo. And then a secondary plate here, just offset. And that's not uncommon at Mutooroo. We commonly see a hanging wall load, main load, a footwall load, and this could be reflecting a footwall load. Again, Havilah drill holes, we're looking at 200 metres below the deepest hole we've drilled. And once again, we could reasonably expect to find sulphides here, and we'll only know what the grade and the widths are once we drill it. So what does all of this mean for Mutooroo? This, again, is a long section along the ore body. It's about 2 kilometres here from one end to the other, roughly. This is our inferred resource indicated, measured, and a conceptual open pit design. Our recent drilling with JXAM, which we've reported in a few announcements, was basically sitting in here, mostly off the northern end of the Mutooroo deposit and below our existing earlier drilling. So we've got some nice intersections in here and likely to extend the resource. But where we've done where these plates exist, so we used these deepest holes which come through here, and the plates which I showed you in the previous slides sort of sit within this red rectangle here. And so this is an area which is largely untested, where based on the highly conductive zones, we could reasonably expect to intercept sulphides. So that's really good news for us in that one, it gives us an excellent target to drill, and two, it would mean, importantly, that if we're successful here, it could be potentially indicating increased resources at the northern end of the Metre deposit, which in turn, of course, is very favourable for the project economics. So whichever way you look at it, it's very good news for Havilah and for our Mutooroo deposit. As always, if you'd like more information, please check our website or look at us up on social media or drop me a line. So I'll leave it there until next time. Thank you.